Hey, this is Jerry Akin at Pierce Chapel. Thank you for joining me for this week's midweek meditation. If I were to sing to you the first line of a very familiar song, you could probably finish it. For example, if I sang R-E-S-P-E-C-T, you probably know what comes next. You may even get the entire song stuck in your head. Or if I were to sing Amazing Grace, How Sweet the Sound, you could probably take it from there. There was a practice in Jesus' day called sympathetic vibration where someone would quote the first verse of a psalm. And remember, the Psalms were a songbook. It was a hymnal of sorts for the Hebrew people. But when they would quote that first verse, it would say that they were embodying the entirety of that song. Now, when we consider Jesus' words on the cross, when he cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" To us, to our ears, it seems like Jesus just felt abandoned. And where was God? But Jesus was actually participating in this sympathetic vibration. He was quoting from the first verse of the 22nd Psalm, which says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" If you were to go on down and continue reading through that psalm, you would see things like in verse 7 and 8 where it says, all who see me mock me. And we know that the crowd was mocking Jesus. It says, they make mouths at me, they wag their heads, and they say, he trusts in the Lord. Let the Lord deliver him. Let him rescue him, for he delights in him. And we know that as Jesus hung on that cross, the crowd was saying, come down off the cross. Let's see you save yourself. So Jesus was pointing to Psalm 22 and saying this was a prophecy about this very moment, his crucifixion. And yes, in that moment, he did feel abandoned and forsaken, just as the psalmist did. Yes, in that moment, he felt the mockery and the derision, just as the psalmist did. But that psalm ends on a positive note. I won't read the whole thing here, but I encourage you to read it in your spare time. I'll just say that if you look through the psalm, you see towards the end, the kingship belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations. All the prosperous of the earth eat and worship. Before him shall bow all who go down to the dust. And then the final verse says, they shall come and proclaim his righteousness to a people yet unborn. He has done it, or he has accomplished it. In other words, this crucifixion of Jesus would be something told about to people who were not even born yet. And when we tell this story, we will say, God has accomplished his purpose. So yes, Jesus felt alone. Jesus felt forsaken because he was bearing the sin of the world, and that sin separated him from God. But he was also making a proclamation that in this moment, God is accomplishing something that will be talked about and told about for generations and generations to come. So when you feel alone, when you feel abandoned, when you feel forsaken, refer back to Psalm 22. Even in your darkest moments, God is up to something. God is at work. And may we all be able to say in the midst of our own grief and our own sorrow that God is accomplishing his will through us.